Every single minute of your resting life, you cycle 6,000 to 8,000 milliliters of air through your body. This continuous physical exchange bridges the gap between the atmosphere around you and the deepest cells inside you. Lungs are passive, elastic bags, sealed tightly inside the airtight box of your thoracic cavity. By themselves, they possess no muscle to move air. The mechanical trigger of a breath happens outside the lungs entirely. Below them, a sheet of muscle called the diaphragm contracts downward, while the muscles between your ribs flare outward. This schematic shows the core principle. As the chamber expands, the internal pressure drops. In your chest, that muscular expansion lowers the internal pressure by 1 to 3 millimeters of mercury relative to the outside world. That small drop is the tipping point. The heavy weight of the Earth's atmosphere rushes down your airway to fill that newly created pressure vacuum. Inhalation occurs when we create a localized physical void, allowing the weight of the atmosphere to force its way inside to fill it. That air travels down a branching network of increasingly tiny tubes until it hits a dead end. 300 million microscopic, thin-walled sacs called alveoli. At this biological barrier, the macroscopic physics of volume and pressure ends. To go any further, the body must employ microscopic chemical engineering. Inside the alveoli, the concentration of oxygen is high, but the dark, venous blood pumping on the other side of that thin membrane has been depleted of its supply. This imbalance creates a steep partial pressure gradient. It forces oxygen molecules to diffuse across the respiratory membrane and into your bloodstream. Oxygen gas cannot dissolve effectively in liquid blood plasma. To move through the body in the necessary quantities, it requires a specialized carrier. Oxygen molecules lock on to 4 iron-based binding sites of a protein called hemoglobin, synthesizing a compound called oxyhemoglobin. Packed into red blood cells, this delivery fleet is pumped deep into the body, releasing its oxygen payload precisely where cells are burning fuel for metabolism. Without this protein-binding chemistry, the mechanical intake of air would be useless to the cells that require it. Cellular respiration produces carbon dioxide as a byproduct. Because it is toxic to tissue, this exhaust must be immediately evacuated. This visualization shows the distribution of the return trip. Only 23% of the carbon dioxide binds to hemoglobin. A small 7% dissolves directly into the blood plasma. As detailed in this physiological text, the remaining 70% of massive CO2 waste must undergo a chemical transformation. Inside red blood cells, carbon dioxide reacts with water, forming carbonic acid. As seen in these equations, it rapidly breaks apart into bicarbonate and hydrogen ions. While delivering oxygen is a matter of protein binding, evacuating the toxic exhaust requires this multi-step chemical reconfiguration. That bicarbonate-heavy venous blood eventually arrives back at the capillary network surrounding the alveoli in the lungs. Because the air in the lungs has a low partial pressure of carbon dioxide, the chemical gradient reverses. The bicarbonates break back down, reassembling into CO2 gas and water. This freed gas diffuses out of the liquid blood and into the airspace of the alveoli. At this point, the mechanical physics takes over. The brain halts its electrical signals, and the diaphragm and intercostal muscles relax back to their resting state. As the muscles relax, the volume of your thoracic cavity collapses. The internal pressure spikes, physically forcing the toxic gas up the trachea and out of the body. Grounded finish. Every 3 to 5 seconds, survival depends on this cycle, an unconscious loop of macroscopic physics and biochemistry.